seems. Hello there, guys. 3, 5, 10 possible options for why it keeps cutting out. One, it's not the internet, because as you know, I pay £76 a month for house line internet and doodah, so I've got top-notch hybrid, so you know we can do downloads and all that sort of blah blah. So that's not the problem. But whatever the problem is, I can't really be asked. It's just whether or not I can be asked continuing. So as I was talking about basically if a person brings a child into the world and it's born with a physical, under the Western world's framework of support systems, a physical, mental, or blah, 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 blah needs, who would be responsible for the budgeting, extra needs, extra costs, extra handling, extra nurturing, extra care? And also what you've got to remember is within this community that we've got at the moment, there was recently a story about a judge who had ordered a termination of a person with learning difficulty from actually having a baby. Now, I've got a friend, Karen. I'm allowed to talk about her publicly. As people know, Karen is the one who, when I was at court for Aaron and Faith, she was out searching for her son, who was found hung, whatever, in Leyland. And we've been personal friends. And Karen was my carer. As are most of my personal friends, ex-carers and things like that in my life. But Karen works as a carer, and she has people that she works for who you couldn't possibly allow to even have a sexual relationship, let alone, I'm going to get called a fucking Nazi for this shit, but it really, really, really isn't conceivable if you really understand. Let me explain something first. My understanding and education, as I've explained on previous blogs, my dad was a builder for Hillary Burton, not far from here. So it was for high dependency learning difficulties. And my ex-stepmom worked for what would be classed the older generation, geriatrics, as a carer. So I've grown up seeing both parts of the spectrum, to the people who throw the eggs at the spastic bus, to the people who help them get on the bus and clean the windows. And yes, some people do lick the eggs off the windows when you throw that, and that's really horrible to do. There really, really are people in society that really do need help, support and need, and could not be in this world without extra hands to support them. As I've always used Stephen Hawkins, whatever you believe in his belief systems, he could not have done anything without the support of others, machinery, equipment, or he wouldn't have existed to complete the molecules to this level that somebody else can now pick up and take further. His work will always be important, but he would never have fulfilled that purpose before he died if he hadn't have had independent living support. But because he came from a wealthy family, he had everything provided for him. Within government social care and PIP and all of the disability supports, it becomes fragmented. Take Motability scheme for one. If you're a wheelchair user and a Motability user, you can take one pot of these things. You can't actually have all needs. So you're expected to go from your bed into your home, into a car to get into the city, to use a wheelchair to get in, to go through all of the challenges and everything like that. That's barbaric crazy. I mean, when I worked at Preston for the clubs and stuff, I did a whole, everybody had to come out in a wheelchair to see how easy it is to get around town. It was really funny. It was a sponsorship, but it was fucking amusing for people to realise how claustrophobic around clothes. Blah, 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 blah. The reason that people are in a wheelchair is because nobody's come up with a new design. And disability aids and equipment is so behind. Technology becomes positive when it's helping advance people in a way. Like, take my friend Stephen for an example. His wife Sue, to go back to what my original thing was with the balance with men and women and what our roles was, his wife Sue would have to give up her entire life to look after her husband after he had a brain hemorrhage, because his needs were so dependent that he couldn't even go to the shop and come back and remember where he'd gone. The iPhone, and you know how I feel about the iPhone, blah, 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 but the iPhone enables him to be able to go home. She has a thing on his, and it has a whole app system where he can just speak to it even all he says is, "Where am I? I don't know where I am." And it literally GPSes him, and it says, "Go home," and it will tell him. Sometimes he comes home to confused, and it took a lot of us to do this, to help Stephen get from the bed. There was a lot of us around him at the time, and a very dear friend of mine, Anne Suze, is a neurologist at Preston Hospital. She's an African woman, but she's the world's greatest neurologist, right? I mean, and it was an honour and a privilege to sit around a Christmas dinner with her, because she was on her own, away from her family, working at Christmas, looking after Stephen in hospital. And Sue just said, "Look, please do come for Christmas." The same with me. I was on my own with two babies. She just said, "Come for Christmas dinner with us." And even though Stephen was in hospital, do you know what I mean? So, but anyway, back to my original conversation, and this is something that Dean talks about, and as you know, blah, 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 consensus, contracts, commitments, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, it's a poignant message, and I can take it away from that and bring it back to somebody that I know personally on the speaker's track, who wrote the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. The whole world has gone fucking crazy, as we know, but Dean brought up something tonight as well, and this is where me and him disagree. He actually agrees with the feminists that burnt the bras, and I disagree with the feminists that burnt the bras. I agree with them bringing it to the play. I don't believe in the way they smashed it and crashed it, and not in a Greek way, but like in, I think they just went too far. And I think what's happened within this structure, and it's only my personal opinion, because I can only come from, as I've said, I can experience from each different north, south, east, and west, but I can't speak, even though this is a worldwide audience and this is a worldwide network. I cannot come here and tell you how people in the Antarctic can live, because I would fucking freeze to death. So that would be pointless for me to even say that I can even understand your framework or how your system works, or that would be fucking crazy. What I do know about Eskimos is, when family are unwell, they don't expect the wolves to eat them unless it's completely severe. Do you know what I mean? But as families, one thing I will give the Indian culture and a lot of other cultures that come over here is they kick the Western fucking family unit to kingdom come. I know people have a go at them and say there's so many in the house and blah, 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 blah. But when the shit hits the family and their families, they stick together. And not only that, I've mentioned before, when I used to work for Cambridge Military Hospital, that when I was working in Skaboo with the babies that used to move around the unit, when the Western world people used to come in, it was most bottle fed. Majority of fathers only attended at visiting hours and agreed to it. That's the really funny thing about what you used to watch at this, by the way, agreeing to the whether or not I'm allowed to be with my baby and whether your time frames matter. Western fathers just turned up at visiting hours, and not many did, and a lot of mothers spent the times there alone. Grandparents and stuff like that, it was like a weekly visit if they were lucky. Sisters, brothers popped in and out maybe for a 20-minute visit. The Indian family, the Greeks families, and all of this sort of stuff, it was crowded rooms. They were actually having to tell people, look, two to a room. They're saying that's not possible. Our baby may die, mate. You know, so and they really stuck together. It was money in the table. All babies started off with a trust fund within that society. We in the Western world have a complete opportunity to do this. Government have just launched a new trust fund system with 20 grand in it already. Anybody who doesn't know about it, go to your local bank, do it, blah, 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 play the system, whatever. It's 20 grand in there, keep up your fees. And, you know, you've got starting grounds, you know, to make sure children, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, as you know, when I went to London and I spoke at the, for our launch of Fridays, I said, don't ask your children what they want to be when they grow up. Ask them who they are now. And a lot of people disagree with this, and the education system has had a bit of a row with me over this, because the education system only covers 5 basic fundamental curriculums for children, and they exist in everything. And the challenge with that is we're wasting our children's lives based on an 18-year, well, starting at 4 or 5, but government now have released for children in the age of 2 to be examined by government. Now, Part of it I agree with, part of it I don't. It depends whether you're looking at it as a professional, whether you're looking at it as a person in the system, or whether you're looking at a person who lives next door to somebody who's got people with tags and labels coming in and out of their houses, and officials and police turning up, blah, 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 blah. It's what your perception of the system is, really. Social services has a bad press. The NHS is crumbling, so people say. I, as a person with EDS, would never want to be in another fucking country without an NHS. Simple as that. As you know, I am somebody who has kept themselves out of A&E because of my kids for a long time, sometimes having to turn up at A&E and have to leave because of childcare with my children. Once you go in an ambulance, obviously kids aren't allowed in the ambulance with you. Health and safety, don't really want to talk about that right now. But one of the challenges in this world that we have is single mums. And we live under a C of E church here in the UK, and under the 28 states, I think, I can't remember what it is, but they basically live under the functions of the C of E church, which, as you know, I always keep saying, Henry VIII had very many wives. But basically, if you've got a core principle that's overseeing God Save the Queen and all of that stuff, and it's seated on something that allows for a divide between a husband and wife that has created a child, which is what I'm ultimately talking about, and I'm talking about gender and sex. But if you see under a fundamental principle under a Western society to do that, you've already broken God's true vow principle, and you call yourself a Christian country, or we call ourselves a Christian country, when fundamentally that is bullshit, because we are seated under somebody who was being a bit miffed with the fact that he couldn't keep beheading his wives, and a council became formed, and within that side we came with people who felt that they could be judge and jury over lauding people, which is a good thing. If we had no policy, no policing in certain structures, would we be able to be safe within a society? I don't know. You can go over to certain places and they seem to govern themselves, if you want to use the word govern, or what do you want to call it? You know, do we have to colonize? Do we have to, I don't know, there's a massive big Marxist rally and all that sort of stuff going on at the moment. So everybody can live in a box, do you know what I mean? So we got to sort of like, I don't know, maybe just like try to realize that sometimes once you've put everything into that box and you've moved it to wherever it needs to be, if you try to put it in the cupboard as it is right now, it's going to take up a lot of space and it's going to occupy it, and ultimately you've got to flatten that box and potentially recycle it. So it's a bit irrelevant, really. So it just becomes paper that's recyclable. So, but the problem is, in this country, we've got a computer system that keeps data, if we want to be politically correct. It's about data. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing, because God forbid I don't want to be a Jane Doe. So ultimately, you know, we leave in a box, unless you want to go in a rug, but we leave in a box, and we are either a John Doe or we're a Jane Doe, unless we have some form of identity, identity. And it brings it back down to the basic fundamentals again on who is responsible for the box that we live in, which is a house. And that comes back down to a man and a woman who have brought, I've told you I'm not here to talk about gay, because gay and gay can't create a child, lesbian can't create a child. That's not natural. I ain't here to talk about things that are not natural. I'm here to talk about natural, raw laws, materials, raw substance, law, you know, completely natural laws of the universe. So that isn't natural, that isn't God-given, that isn't within the natural order of creation. So I'm not here to judge, analyze, or anything about that. What I'm here to protect is the natural, which is the man's penis enters the vagina and it creates a baby, and then that baby comes into the world as a boy or a girl, and from there we've all whinged about the cost of shopping for gender neutralisation and gender neutral clothes, hence why we want to know the sex of our child to put our cost down to provide boy or girl, pink or whatever. I'm not saying that we can't challenge gender stereotypes. Men can iron their shirts, women can iron their stuff, boys can iron blah 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 blah. People can wash up. If a man lives in a house by himself, he's got to clean his own toilet. If a woman lives by a house, she's got to clean her own toilet. If they live together, they can both clean the toilet. Do you know what I mean? It's not, you know, that's challenging stereotypes. That's challenging that the woman had the brush at the front of the thing and the man came home with his suitcase and his hat and the wage. That was, you know, women. Do you know what makes me laugh? Right, let me just make a point. I've just realised something. Everybody goes on about the people who fought for the rights for women to work. Did you know women actually went to war? They were working long before people went to fight for their rights, by the way. Women actually dropped everything when the men went out to war, picked up their husbands' jobs and went rightfully. I do believe there was a kick-off because they didn't get paid the same as their husbands would, which meant they couldn't feed their children in the same way, which is what kicked things off. But actually, the women of the husbands picked up their mechanical farming jobs while they went off to war. What were the women meant to do? Starve while they were out there shooting people? Do you know what I mean? So how can you defend if a gun doesn't fire backwards and only fires forwards? Is that not just an attack? Good point. Anyway, I actually can't be asked being here yet again tonight. So these cutouts on these lives do my head in. The lack of tools and equipment drives me nuts. I know it can be done harder, faster, quicker, smarter. I don't think I'm going to get the thing done ready for the 4th to the 7th for the film festival, and I don't think I'm going to have everything ready for the barristers' protest on the 1st. Elijah is warning me about a car at the moment, so I don't really know what's going on there. I don't know how I feel about a couple of things to do within this network at the moment. I don't know how I feel about the fact that I'm not running from my website and I have too much close proximity through Crackbook. Crackbook doesn't allow for there to be a shield between your personal and your social media, and it's used by so many different tools. Don't forget, whatever you believe about the creation of it, date or whatever, but at the end of the day, the niche market was university students to connect and stuff like that within the actual network of the university. I can't think what I wanted to carry on with because I'm tired. But Amber is pretty much going to be taking over, working out what's going to be going on that side. Photos of forced adoption.co.uk are taking over all your guys' data for the class action. There isn't anybody else to take over the EU, United Nations or Geneva or any of the other stuff. Monique is over in Australia. The video is on the United Nations website. It's gone out. And there's so much stuff going on. All I need is to be in a room where I can just mind map for fucking ages, probably about 5 or 6 days, and just write for about 6 weeks, without the kids running through paperwork, basically. What else is there? I know the guys down at the park are still down there for all the veterans. There's a load of the yellow jackets, and you can call them yellow jackets, or you can just call them kind human people that feel significant doing something at the moment. But there's a lot of veterans out there in the summer that are getting really, really, really hot. They're like 76. It's so hot in the UK, particularly London. There's not many places of shade in the summer. And a lot of these veterans are overboiling. A lot of them have got arthritis. A lot of them have got significant needs. They don't want to be in some hospital where they're going to go and die, or some respite place, or in a block of flats like this. But it is too much. It's too much. So there's a load of them that are down at the park that are trying to put up shade places. They've been told off because they've put the flags markers up for people to bring them in. And we're literally calling everybody to Hyde Park that are all the veterans. If you've got a van, if you can pick them up from wherever you are, doesn't matter, from Scotland, whatever. If they're there, then please bring them in. It's too hot. It's too hot for these veterans. It's too hot. It's too hot for many people in these situations, but this particular need of veterans that are out on the streets, that have got, a lot of them have got varicose veins, things like that. They need lots of water. They need lots of shelter. They need, hence why we said Hyde Park, because there's lots of fountains that you can just sit in. Most of them need a shower, so they can go into Hyde Park water. The shower facilities down there. The police are saying no to pitching up tents, so can I please call a couple of the Occupy people in just to put a couple of tents down there. Don't forget that most of these are not XR trained. The Yellow Jackets are not willing to XR train, and most people are not willing to understand the difference. And also what you've got to remember is a lot of this is deliberately to bring in the totalitarian state. So what you've got to remember is you've got to flip this over. So what I've basically said is, when that day comes, which will be the 31st of October this year, all the Yellow Jackets have to remind themselves at this particular point is that you're there to watch, observe, step back, and be in the right situation at the right time. And there's a few of you that I have reminded you that you need to keep your bags separate and all of that stuff out the way until the right time at the right place. Do you know what I mean? So there's a couple of the guys here in Portsmouth. So the Portsmouth headquarter division are not. They're not. What you got to remember is this is not meant to be a war. This is not meant to be a fucking revolution. This is not meant to be a doodah. It's a. Why do people bring awareness to things? People bring awareness to things because they either need funding for tools, equipment, blah, blah, blah. They need people to understand the difference. The reason that the education system needs SENs, which is special needs for children there, is each classroom is treated as a box. So if somebody has a need, usually a challenge, then they can't disrupt the entire class. So they tailor it. Well, it's sort of the wrong way to do it. I mean, today, I think Shiloh has finally impressed his father, and his skateboarding is going to be a very interesting journey, I think. We've gone and got him his skateboard pads and things like that. We were really, really lucky because it was on Marketplace for about £8. And it's all the like no fear thing, so I'll stick some have faith over it. And I'm sure Dad can graph it up for him, do you know what I mean? So he's like putting it on the bed and jumping all over it and showing, great, passion for. He's even actually gone to bed with it. He's asleep with it on his side. He had to go to bed with his skateboard. So I'm going to really look forward to that. The thing is, though, I'm going to be called a masculine woman because that means Mum has to hang around at skateboard parks again, spraying again, music again, having to be in a car with somebody else's taste in music again. I've just done 23 years and I'm doing it again with my son's taste of music. So I've just done actually none of these kids vomited really, but I've pick kids up with shitey nappies, wet nappies. It's just easier, do you know what I mean? If I put on a skirt and a top and walked around like an American fucking model, I would end up bloody breaking a heel trying to get on the floor, and can't play cars with boys in high heels, do you know what I mean? So well, actually, there are women out there who like to play with boys with high heels, and actually boys with high heels with cars and high heels. But anyway, the point of this conversation was, what is the role of a woman and what is the role of a man? And are men really from Venus and woman from Mars, or the other way around. And our responsibility to our children, and if there is any special needs, and not forgetting that a child grows up to be an adult. So if there are born genetic special needs, if you believe this stuff exists, or labels, but you know, try telling me that Down's chromosome doesn't exist, say that to a family, that their child doesn't have Down syndrome. I do believe a football manager did that once and got completely fucking ridiculed. So I have worked with a lot of people with Downs. A prime example, when Faith was born, we were a church thing, and there was a young girl there who has Down syndrome, and she was really upset because her sister's having a baby, and social services had told her that she's not allowed to hold her, be around her. She's not a bit. Parents have been told. She's just recently been sat down and told this stuff can't happen. And she was really, really upset, and it's the first time she'd been told that she would never ever have a family of her own. And my friend Sue was there, so I didn't do this unwisely. It was a bit impulsive, but I wasn't stupid. So, and I do understand the strength and quickness that a person with Downs can move. Their strength is mighty, and if you want to go to the worst case scenario, if the person was with Down syndrome was holding a baby in their arms and that baby cried or got frustrated, or even they got bored, they would just stand up, knock the baby on the floor, and they would use it like a toy doll. That is the 100% possibility. You can't say that isn't going to happen. So rightfully so, a child would have to be safeguarded in a situation like that. That's like saying that children can do whatever they want and nobody has to really worry if the lion cage over at the zoo is actually open, and you know, your child is walking towards it, but hey, okay, there's a lion in there, but it's fine because it's really cute and it's really, really, really lovely. But we know there's 100% possibility that it's going to open its mouth and chew your child's head off. So there has to be some form of safeguarding. And as I say, people watching across here, you know, you see people under the influence and stuff like that. They are not responsible to have children. So the question you have to ask yourself is, when somebody isn't responsible for their own actions, the duties and care to their children, can't be there to meet their needs that need to be met, how do you bridge that gap? Who bridges it? And if it costs, who funds it? And I think this is where the challenge lies, because at the end of the day, a gay couple, whatever you want to call yourself, can't create a child. They can adopt, and they take that responsibility on. Do they sit on the benefit system? I don't know. I've not asked. Do I know anybody that has? Yes, I do. But predominantly, the male is meant to be the provider and the protector, and the female is meant to be the nurturer and carer. That is the God-given role. That is meant to be. It's designed to be within a family. It's meant to be God, the father, as in the husband, the mother, wife, and then the children, and then it goes down in the roles of your community, love thy neighbor, blah 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 blah. That is the true hierarchy of how we are meant to live in biblical terms. There is no other way. So Henry VIII, with your very many wives, you like to chop and change, try again now, that governs this UK hierarchy, is baloney and a bunch of bullshit. So that has to go. It's as simple as that. It's not about it being the C of E church, because there has to be a church, and then it's tithing. So it's tithing over tax. So as we always said, Jesus came to change the the table people over, to abolish this. It's not about paying tax, it's the extortion of paying tax and the percent, because the Bible said that the provider and protector was to give 10% to his community to build his kingdom, to be the Lord's kingdom. That was the point. So you kept 90% back to yourself and 10% was tied to your community. So you filled your own bucket up first and gave over whatever else was left. It wasn't about the people, Romans, coming in and saying, hey, if you can't, pay the money for your land, which is owned by the Queen, the Crown, whoever basically wants to chop off the wife's head or overthrow whichever government and call themselves the king of the castle, I'm the dirty rascal, then you know, it will keep continuing until we, the 99% of the 1% that are bigger than the 1%, say, hey, no, this isn't correct. So can we say transgender is not correct? No, of course we can't. What somebody wants to do with their own life is completely up to them. But when it filters out on the streets, and I say pollutes our children, and it is polluting our children, if you don't think games like Grand Theft Auto aren't polluting our children, then you're fucking crazy. You know, on Grand Theft Auto, the cars and the stuff literally come in, they drag prostitutes out the car, they shoot them in the head. If you think that's completely acceptable for a child to see on a daily basis, then that's completely madness. We have to say, no, we can't have a tolerance to this stuff around our children, hence why we had 18, 15, 12 PG. That exists to protect the minds of a child, because as that boy, girl grows up, we go through a natural growth of level. And the world internet, I mean, take the internet for example. I told you once that I googled a song for my son on Mother's Day, and all I put in was mother and son. The internet didn't bring me up some lovely little nice thing between a mother and son. It brought me up fucking child porn between like mother and son, and that was really uncomfortable and horrible, and I really didn't like it. So you know, it's pollution. So we have to say that there are certain things out there that are polluting the atmosphere. We can say it in smokes and whatever, to games that are around and influencing our children, to the music industry that's influencing our children, to the education system. Dean made a really poignant thing, and I'll ask this as a question. And again, not anti anybody that wants to be transgender, dress up as transgender, be transgender, go to do whatever they want to do. But if they are penetrating a child in any way, shape, or form, be that with a physical part of their body or their mind or their belief systems, then you have to ask questions and maybe draw the line, in my opinion. That's my opinion. If you want to insult my opinion, go ahead. It's mine. You won't change it. So, if somebody with transgender was reading a book to a child about being transgender and educating about them and their mental health, I wouldn't have an issue with that. If somebody is educating children about, and it depends what age that child is, that's a different thing as well. My children out there, our children, no. If we were out and about with the boys and somebody walked past who was clearly, my son was confused over whether to consider whether it was a boy or girl, because people do that. If your belief systems are set to boy and girl, you are going to look and go, is that a boy or a girl? It's complete natural. If you don't do that, you're bullshitting yourself. So you know, would we then explain to the boys? We would explain. I would probably actually tell the boys, and I'll be brutally honest, I'd probably tell them, yes, it was a man dressed up as a woman, maybe explain it later on, because that's true. It's a true statement. It is a man dressed up as a woman. But you couldn't have the level of conversation with them that they believe they're in the wrong body. Now, do I believe that the education system should provide a counselling service for children that at school feel...
interrupt?
Yeah.
Do you mind if I interrupt?
Go ahead.
Excellent.
Do you want me to turn it to?
No. I think what you're saying is really good. But I think people are missing the point with transgender and all this sort of stuff.
I'm getting a bit... Yeah,
no,
you can't press buttons on this one.
Can I just finish?
This is Dean, by the way.
Can I just finish what I'm going to say with this? And I think I don't do interviews and I don't do these things for various reasons, but and I don't want to be on camera.
I'm just trying to get you out the mirror.
It's not because I'm not going to say anything bad or anything like that. Our children today are being polluted enough as it is. They're being polluted by media. Back in my day, we didn't have an internet. I'm not an internet generation. So a lot of this stuff never come to the forefront of our imaginations. We were quite free, really. And what I mean by free is that we had freedom of thinking. We had a lot more freedom of choice. We had a lot more freedom of being...
Playing on trees, climbing trees.
Doing what we need to do. Can I just finish a minute? I have a problem. Now, I don't I don't necessarily have a problem, but I have an issue. Our children today are incredibly polluted via music, via mediums and media, via sexuality. Women, young girls are being polluted by how they should look, how they should feel. Boys are being polluted by how they should act. They're being very desensitized, and so will female being quite desensitized nowadays because they've got a medium and a media in their pocket constantly. Now, the point I'm trying to make is this. I don't agree with, okay, a man, and I'm not homophobic, and I'll make this perfectly clear right now. I don't believe that a transgender person should be going into schools at 7 or 8 years of age, 9, 10 or 11, pushing an agenda, and it is pushing an agenda, on young people. And for the very reason I've just said, they're under incredible amounts of pressure as it is. Why do they need to do it? The same as all these other, mediums, computer games, all this other stuff. They don't need to do it. If a young man wants to be gay, he can make that choice when he's older. If a lady or a woman wants to be a lesbian, they should be freely allowed to make that choice when they're older. I don't think that anybody should be pushing any form of agenda.
What is older?
Hold on. Pushing any form of agenda on our kids. They go for enough as it is. I am all for gay people. I'm for lesbians. You do what you like, but let these kids make a decision when they're old enough. If they get to 14, 15 and they decide they like men, a boy likes another boy.
But they shouldn't be having sex anyway, or sexual attraction.
I get that, but we are living in the 21st century, so we have to run with we have to run with the times to a certain degree.
So I think
no. Listen, what I'm saying to you is that I firmly believe that if a lad is attracted to a man later on in his life, then who are we to sit there and say what love is? Okay, love is love, and it is. What I don't like about all this transgender stuff right now is that they're being forced upon.
Do you believe that people do feel trapped in a different sex body?
Be what you want to be, okay? Be whatever you want to be.
If a girl wants to play football, it's fine.
It's all fine, but you're missing a very poignant message here. These young people, kids, don't need to know about this stuff.
It's like the candy at the till in the shops.
When they get older,
fizzy cokes.
If they get to a certain age of 16, 17,
and want to Google something and learn about it, expand themselves,
I have an emotional attachment to another man, then that should be
and have some guidance counselling.
That should be free of will to do so, okay?
And not be bullied. So an awareness would still be needed.
Would you send Hitler into a school to teach about killing thousands of Jews? No, you wouldn't. Would you send Charles Manson into a school that's killed thousands of people? No, you wouldn't. What I'm trying to say is it's a slight detachment away from it. Obviously, we're talking about sexuality. We're talking about people like Hitler, they're murderers. I get that. You can't necessarily put it in the same bracket. But in some respects, it is in the same bracket. No, you wouldn't. You certainly wouldn't have a paedophile go to a school and teach kids about sort of sexual behaviours. Okay? You wouldn't. Okay? Now, I'm not putting these people in that category. But I think our children are being polluted far too much nowadays. And I think the problem is that our kids should be able to get to an age as young females and adults and make their own decisions. I don't think it should be forced. And the reason why I don't think it's forced, you should force it, because this is not freedom. Yeah? Kids are allowed to be free. They should be allowed to grow up and think and feel how they want to think and feel. And when they get to a certain age, and I think 16, 17, 18, 19, is when they're actually coming into their young adult teens, their young adult, they should have the right to be able to make a decision whether they want to be gay, lesbian, or whatever they want to be.
I know you say make a decision. Is
Well,
it
no,
a
not make a
decision?
decision. Not
Is it a
make a
decision?
no, no, hold on,
Do you think it's a decision to be gay,
Look,
to be
look,
different sex? Is it a decision?
Well, it is a decision. It is a decision whether to if they want to be that way, because they've got mixed emotions going on. Hence why you've had so many problems over the years about people trying to come out.
But if
Because
somebody
they don't,
doesn't
hold on a minute,
understand
they
what
don't,
that feeling
they
is,
don't
how
know.
do they know
Look,
without awareness?
They do not know whether they are or not. We hear it all the time. I'm a 41-year-old man, 42-year-old man. I've travelled all the way around the world. I'm an artist, blah, 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 blah. And I hear the same stories time and time again in amongst the communities. I don't know if to come out. I don't know what my parents are going to feel. I don't know how my mum's going to feel. Hold on, I don't know how I feel. So that's what I mean by decisions. I don't want to ramble on about this because I don't like rambling on about this sort of stuff. But one thing I do know is that our young people are being far too polluted by so many other things, and now they've got this sort of, now they're having a sexuality.
Totally, Maria Coyle says totally agree with Dean.
Hold on a minute. Now what we've got is our children having to question their sexuality.
To question it.
Hold on a minute. That is what this transgender sort of movement is. Hold on a minute. Can I just finish before you interrupt, please? What these people are trying to do, okay, in some respects, now I'm not saying it's all negative, is they are trying to implement and enforce on our young kids and challenging their sexuality. Fuck off. Okay? They will make the decision when they are old enough. Okay? Well, they will make the decision when they are old enough to go, okay, you know, I do feel sexually attracted to a man, and I need to be able to maybe express that and explore that. And they should be free willing to do that. But that's their decision.
Okay.
Hold on. That's their decision that they feel and have to make. A 7-year-old, 8, 9, 10, and 11-year-old doesn't understand, mate. They don't understand. They don't.
It's just fancy dress. I don't care what anybody says. My son used to do it himself.
Please. They don't. They're still growing up as young children going into being teens.
It would be like giving them crack at his 7.
You wouldn't. How dare anybody?
Let's go to school.
Hold on a minute. See, you have to interrupt, don't you? You don't listen.
Can I turn it around?
Okay, no, because you don't listen, and you must listen. Okay.
They're listening.
Now, what I'm saying, well, I don't care who's listening. Okay. The point I'm trying to make is this: our children are being polluted enough, and now they've got to question their own fucking sexuality. Bollocks. Let them be free. Let them be free. And when they are right, and when they feel right to come out and make a decision whether they want to be gay, straight, lesbian, that is when us as adults must put a supportive team or supportive factors around them to support them in the decisions and make it very clear, is this a decision you want to make, or is this a decision, or is it a feeling, or is it just an emotion, or is it just a phase you're going through? And we all go through these phases. We go through phases as kids of smoking. Remember when we were kids? You know, let's have a sneaky cigarette behind the bike shed, you know what I mean? Because it was being, you know, a little bit left field. It was being a little bit, you know, anarchic, you know. And that was a phase. And some carried on that phase smoking, but some didn't. And what I'm saying to you about the whole transgender thing is a very, very similar thing. No 7, 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old you can tell me can sit there in my face and tell me I want to be a girl or I want to be a boy and I'm dressed up or I've got an emotion. They don't understand it. It's coming from somewhere else. All I'm saying is this, I want to finish this right now because I don't want to babble on. All I'm saying to you is our children are being polluted enough, all right? And it's got to stop. Yeah, it's got to stop. All sorts of ways, mate. I mean, music videos, the list is endless. So I'm not pigeonholing just transgenders. What I'm saying to you is I think it's not acceptable for it to hold on. It's not It's not acceptable to enforce your belief system on our children. Do you understand? Like I said, when they get to a certain age,
other people's children
and other people's children,
like ours. Why
they don't need to.
Would you allow it for
our children's innocence are being taken away constantly, whether it's video games, music, to fit in, to be this, to be that, and now they're being questioned on their own sexuality.
If our boys go to school, would you allow the LGBT gender in the school they're there?
Hold on a minute. Now I have gone out spraying with somebody in Ireland that has going through a transgender. He is a man, and a young man. He's 14, 15 years of age. I took him spraying with me, and he is going through the hormones. He's having everything done. Do you understand? So I come from good grounding with this. Now, I've actually even questioned him. You know what I'm like? I'm very straight to the point. I've even questioned him. I don't want you making the wrong decision, mate. Okay? I don't want you turning around in 10 years, 15 years' time going, my God,
Like a
what have I
tattoo.
done? Yes, what have I done? Do you know what I mean? And I think we need to tread careful with this situation. What I don't like about this transgender thing, and I'm going to be brutally honest with you right now, how dare you go into schools and start trying to change people's feelings and our children's emotions and start challenging our children's innocence as children, don't forget. We're not talking adults, these are children. How dare anybody challenge their innocence? Let them be innocent children, let them grow up and let them make their own decision when it's a viable age. And if they feel that way, then us as adults, as parents, as family members, even as good friends, should support them. If they want to be that, then we will give them the support. If they're not too sure, then we need to really sit down with these young people and say, look, are you sure about the decision you're going to make it? Because this is going to change your life. And that's what we've got to do.
Would you give an 11-year-old a tattoo?
Look, I'm not getting into that. Okay, no, I don't think so. All I'm saying to you is read between the lines of what I'm saying to you. Bottom line is the bottom line. We're going to end it here. Our children are under enough pressure with their education. They're under enough pressure by being their peers at their schools already. They've got fucking mediums in their pockets left, right and centre. They've got friends of friends on Facebook and all these other mediums telling them how to be, how they shouldn't be. You know, what we're going to have is, if we're not careful, we're going to have a generation of children that are going to be incredibly fucking confused. And it ain't on. And they are our future. They are our future. They are our future, and we've got to protect them. And what I mean by protecting them is let them be what they want to be. I don't have an issue with that. But don't infiltrate and put your fucking agendas on a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old child that is growing up as being a young child.
High school under mental health bracket. Would you do that?
It's pollution. It's toxic behaviour. And it's not acceptable. And that's where I stand with it. No, I'm not homophobic. No, I'm not any of them attachments. You can't put fucking attachments on me because I'm too smart and too fucking clever for it. I've been around. And that's not an ego thing. I have. All I'm saying to you is this. Think twice. We should not be doing this to our kids. Let them grow. Let them blossom. And let them make the decisions when it is right.
Let them ask the questions
and let them ask the questions. And let's put support around them if they're not too sure, or whether they want to, or whether they don't. And that's the bottom line. And that's all I want to say.
But at the end of the day, if it's a daffodil seed, it's still going to be a daffodil.
Okay. That's what I need to say.
Anyway, Maria just said, totally agree with Dean, and then said, well done, Dean. So as you can see, I can't scroll down on the messages. So
I appreciate it, Maria. Thanks very much.
But anyway, guys, we've got what day is it today? Let me just double check before I go, because I've come up to my hour. So it's the 29th of June today, and then Sunday we end with well, it's meant to be chill out, but it's the 30th, and then obviously Monday we set foot with the barristers that are protesting because they don't get paid enough. So I'm hoping that the Red X crew is going to be down there to remind them that they're being paid to sign children away permanently from families, and hopefully there'll be a team down there for that. There's a big protest with barristers all the way around the world who basically say they're not being paid enough. But please do remember that the barrister for the ladies who don't want to wear burqas has now been given 38 years in prison and 137 slashings public. So, you know, there's a lot of people standing for a lot of different people for things. And we have a right, it's not about protesting, we have a right to stand for the way that policy and rules and regulations and that are made, and we are at a time in what would be fucking history to completely rewrite the Bill of Human Rights. As much as Dean wants to leave the country, I'm stepping up for Britain. So I'm sticking by, and I'm putting my roots and my home in Britain, but I will travel. I am standing my ground on this turf as somebody who was born here, not because of somebody who overtook this island, but I do believe it's a very beautiful place, and people need to sort the shit out. And I am going to travel, I am going to leave, but I'm going to keep my British citizenship, and that's pretty much all it is, to protect me and family in other countries so we can travel to places that the Western people can, that other people can't. So it's a common sense thing to do. It is a sinking ship. Likelihood of it completely fucking crashing and burning is quite high, but you know, the grass will grow, the sun will still come out in the morning, the moon will still come out, the birds will still, life will still go on. The stock market will become something different, and you know, we will still get up and do what we've got to do. But what we should be doing is getting up and living, not getting up to a budget and going to work to pay our bills. That's pretty much the simple message. But we do need a infrastructure that supports people in a society that is so mainframed to systems, which is why I choose not to be part of that system, because it's just easier for me and my children. But here, it's a challenge to do that, which is why I want to give everybody the safety vote of, hey, we're not homeless, but you know, the children, and also somewhere to come back, because I have a reason to come back here. I still am going to court for Aaron and Faith. I'm never going to let that go, even more so since the people here have really delved into me over the last 6 weeks and have actually said that, you know, it was one sentence and one sentence alone that pissed them all off. And it was that Aaron and Faith would grow up to be my carers. And my housing officer said, well, I hope my children are going to grow up to be my carers. Otherwise, I'm going to be under social services. Adult social services is just as fucked. So really, if we weren't under Henry VIII, we wouldn't be dependent on the system in the first place, because we would have family structure and nobody would need to go without needs and wants, because we would support our own families and communities in the way that the Lord asked us to do in the first place. And these little instructions is just because you have to pay somebody to wipe your own ass if you're really sick. Do you know what I mean? But if you really love somebody, you won't mind doing so if they're very poorly, will you? So, including your own mum and dad. So anyway, I'm going to shoot off. I'll see you all on the 1st. And I said there is about 120,000 of you all that could potentially be in this worldwide class action. Now, if I do not see over 10% of you on the 1st, in fact, if I only see a fucking 100% of you on the 1st, all red Xing up, I'm abandoning your ship too and going on my own. And I will always carry the red X for Aaron and Faith anyway. But if it is, you know, up there and it is moving forward and you are all interacting with the barristers, I'm basically asking you all on the 1st to write a letter to the barrister that lost your kids, a very personal one on how it has affected you and what he did or didn't do. And that's how we're going to be starting End It, and obviously we're leading into January, where there's going to be the biggest campaign ever for child trafficking, human trafficking, to bring it worldwide into the light, to say, you know, no more to this shit. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, it's Friday night. I'm hoping potentially that Dean might actually be here this weekend and might actually put some music out, maybe music tomorrow, Saturday. Any events that Saturday? There needs to be more couples freaking events. Do you know what I mean? Couple family events. Everything's for fucking single world. Everybody wants to be in the single world these days. No, seriously. No, been there, done it. No.
Welcome to the breakdown of your society.
There we go. We will end it on that note. What was that, Dean?
I said, welcome to the breakdown of your society.
And what's the message before we go from Dean?
The message is, be nice, be kind, be humble. And don't suffer fools. I don't really need to say much more, to be honest with you, but you know, it is the demoralising of our society as we speak. Okay, and we need to get together and we need to sort this shit out because, you know, we're on our way out if we're not careful. And I mean that, we're on our way out.
Not because of a planet extinction, but
Not
just
because of planet
because
extinction, because of human extinction, what humans do to humans.
what humans doing to humans.
Absolutely.
It's how we're treating each other that's the problem, mate.
Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with the planet. It's beautiful. The grass will grow. The birds will still meet its needs.
Out there created us, not the other way around, all right?
Yeah. It's what we're all doing to each other. That's the problem. It's what it's if people can follow orders that cause such pain and death to, you know, to people, and go to sleep at night not really thinking about the consequences to others, then yeah, we have to, yeah. So anyway, good night. As Dean said, welcome to the decay of society as we know it, unless we dig the gangrene out or amputate it. And I'm not willing to abandon ship, so we've got to do something about our so-called Great Britain. And as I originally said in 2010, put the Great back in Britain. Come on, if not for us, do it for our future fucking generation. Without the effing, that would be great. So I'll catch you all later. And Dean has said, he's saying bye.
Yeah, take care of yourselves.
Yeah, and each other.
Yeah, look after yourself.